What's going on, guys? It's Frito here for your Overwatch, and we're going to be doing a tier list for Season 4. Keep in mind, Lifeweaver will not be added into competitive play until 2 weeks past the launch date, but with significant playtime on the new patch, I'm confident in giving you a tier list, at least for this first period before they do the mid-season patch or any emergency hotfix patches. This applies to the meta with Lifeweaver in it, in quick play right now, and then in ranked when he comes out. If you care about your in-game performance, you gotta pay attention to today's video sponsor, NVIDIA. NVIDIA's new 40 series GPUs are insane, and the NVIDIA Reflex setting is a must for all Overwatch players. If you don't know already, system latency is a lag between your actions putting into the game and the response on the screen, which means a slow or laggy system will downgrade your gameplay performance big time, making it harder to react and hit shots. You can cut your system latency down in half simply by turning on the NVIDIA Reflex setting, which every Overwatch player should do. NVIDIA Reflex works on all GPUs all the way back to the 9 series, so you probably can use it. It uses your graphics card to coordinate with the game to reduce system latency, if your hardware supports it. The new 40 series of cards has Overwatch 2 running at over 360 frames per second. So it's an easy recommendation for me. If you want to have the industry-leading performance, you gotta pick up the latest NVIDIA graphics card if you can. Overwatch is a crazy fast game, and you don't want your performance hindered by your hardware, ever. You can check out more about NVIDIA's industry-leading performance and in-game settings by clicking the link in the description, and don't forget to turn on NVIDIA Reflex. I want to start off with the support category. We're going to look at the S and A tier all together because I think it might be a surprise to you that I don't have Lifeweaver in either. This is because I think he is a techie type hero with low stats, which either requires knowledge from you, the right hero picks from your teammates, and the right map, because I don't think Lifeweaver is great on all the maps, specifically Control or any map that's like a grindy lane or a jump on the objective brawl. So there's a lot of situations where Lifeweaver just isn't going to have the punching power to get the job done. We'll talk about him more later. But at the top of the S tier is going to be Zenyatta. He did not change, and the relationship with the top tanks in the game also did not change. The only thing that did is there's more options to protect Zen now. And considering how many team fights are, a set formation of your 5, look at their 5, the two tanks battle each other, having a Zen Discord orb on that target is such a massive advantage, and snipers aren't quite as good, flankers are counterable, all that sets up Zen to be in a very safe position and get incredible value on most maps in a lot of situations, hard countering a lot of the tanks, which is a big percentage of the game. I will say that because he doesn't have big bailout healing when your team makes mistakes, he's harder to play, requiring you to hit more shots to open up the team fight. But once you do, that Discord orb really cleans up fights and like even stall fights, if you think about it. There's a lot of brawly, tanky characters that jump on the objective and the respawns keep coming out. Discord orb is one of the best ways to deal with a lot of things in the game. Now in the A tier, I'll admit BAP is a personal favorite of mine, so I might be biased, but I feel like he is positioned to be a surprising winner in this patch meta. Keep in mind, he has been played at the highest levels of play, but my tier lists are always geared towards the average player and what heroes you'll expect to easily rank up on in this patch window. And so while he synergizes great with a lot of the high health pool brawler tanks, he protects Zen well, but also just in general, he's like a stat machine, spitting out healing and damage at the same time. The volume of stats you can get with BAP is really going to outmatch some of the other characters that are in the game right now, and Amplification Matrix is amazing at countering a lot of the things that you might think are good now that have been added to the game. Brig pops Rally, Lifeweaver pops Tree. There's these other commitment ults in the game now where BAP just says, oh, okay, you want to fight? Well, we do double damage, and destroys those things. And if you think about how much lower some of the other stats are in the game, I think he wins out in a lot of cases. Season 4, the supports are like the strongest they've ever been in a way, so there's a lot of options, but I think what ends up happening is the meta is a bit kaiju battle where if you just have a meta tank versus a non-meta tank and you heal your meta tank more, you have an easy time. Mercy remains super high on the tier list. The cries of the Mercy community as they keep changing this character, I understand. bland, all the changes are annoying, but to be honest, 55 heals a second was never bad. Mercy has reliable healing and damage amp that really powers up a lot of the characters of the game to counteract a lot of the movement-based playstyles that are going to otherwise beat you. A lot of characters are going vertical, we have a big map pool. Although Mercy doesn't have the super crazy triage healing, it's still difficult to burst through a Mercy beam with a lot of characters. It's just possible with some of them now. But that doesn't mean Mercy's weak all of a sudden. In fact, she retained a lot of the tankiness where when she heals an ally, she also heals herself. So keep that in mind when healing normally, or especially in Valkyrie. Also, Valkyrie got a big buff where she automatically self-heals during Valkyrie, which I think made her more effective when pistoling in Valkyrie to go take out a DPS threat. Remember, Lifeweaver does go vertical and support similar to Mercy, but damage amp is just an easier route to offensive value in my opinion, and Valkyrie's a better ultimate. Ana did get a nerf with a shorter sleep dart duration on tanks, but remember that chain stunning is still a thing. In fact, they're adding more stuns to the game, and Ana overall is still the best pick if you have to go at the enemy's tank and win a battle there. Even though she's nerfed, her kit to disable tanks, particularly either paired with Zen, or if she's established on the high ground paired with Mercy. If you need to get to the high ground or can get saved through the fight, Lifeweaver's a good option as well. Brig just got buffed. There's a lot of characters that play well with Ana, Brig especially, who's going to benefit a lot from heal nade and can go aggressive with the rally buffs. Ana's a really strong character due to the interactions of the game, despite her getting nerfed. The defensive ults are kind of weak in the game as well. Trank heals a lot, but the maps are usually open and big, so it's hard to always save the target in position of the Trank. And I don't think Lucio is very good in ranked at all. So therefore, nano boost combos with DPS or even on your tank often is lethal. And there just isn't a lot of good options to interact with it for the enemy team. So one of the more guaranteed ults in the game, in my opinion, even better than Kitsune Rush nowadays. I feel it's just easier to execute. Rush has higher potential, but nano boost you set on a target and they individually can go kill things, whereas Rush needs to be placed correctly and the team fight has to be thought out a little bit more. Okay, so that's the top tier support. I don't want you to think that this B tier and C tier necessarily means these heroes are weak, because I think the support category has just been getting buffed so much. I don't know if I just need to like make another new category and put Zen in double S and move everything up just because so the letters make a little more sense. But the B tier category was a little tricky for me. Upon reflection, I was really low on Kiriko in my last tier list, but over time I have grown to re-fall in love with the character for her specific niche skill set that is so important for ranked, especially in that she is the best duelist in the class. That is, if you can hit your kunai headshots, of course. I go back and forth on how I feel about her and Moira for the average players, and as long as you have the skill to play Kiri, either her dueling or Suzu to save your team against ultimates or big engages. She also gets 2 of them when fighting inside her Kitsune Rush. Kiri's potential is still really important. She just doesn't have healing stats like some of the other picks above her, and I think she's harder to play personally. While you can be more survivable than picks above her, the stat output might make you still wish that you were picking one of the top tanks. However, due to just the chaos of ranked, I'm still going to suggest that you think of her as an option when it's time to just consider about keeping yourself alive when your team's not working together on one of the picks above her. The handsome new addition, Lifeweaver in the B tier, I had to think real long and hard about this because I think his potential is A and possibly S at the highest tiers of play or in coordinated play. But just like Symmetra, if your team is not utilizing the movement kit, he's pretty limited. And I will say, I think you can get a ton of value on him always with randoms, even if they're not paying attention on defense. But there's some maps that you just need to toss stats at the objective in order to win. So I'm thinking like point C of a lot of maps like Hollywood, Route 66 is such a grind. There's a lot of maps in the pool now because they're all active. So don't try to overpick Lifeweaver for sure. A way that I would describe Lifeweaver is that his potential is just like Sombra. You know Sombra, the character that almost no one knows how to play and it never feels like it synergizes correctly in ranked, but you see the pros play to some fantastic degree. That's how I feel about Lifeweaver. The tech potential is there, but it's just not easy in a solo queue ranked environment. The more mastery you have on the character, you'll be able to adapt to those situations. But I think most players are not good at this character yet, and it's going to take a while before anyone is. When I play him, my quick play teammates very often say thank you after I life grip them out of danger or reestablish them onto a good position. But the input floor you have to have in order to do that reliably instead of just throw the game is quite demanding. But you can check out our Lifeweaver advanced guide, which will really help you out with your decision making, how to manage your abilities and get the most out of his very complex kit. And when he works, he's incredibly dominant to the extent that the enemy team can feel like your team is just untouchable, untargetable. You think you're winning the tank battle and then just gets gripped away, and then you lost all your cooldowns and ammo into nothing. He's out of the way now, and you have new things to fight which have their cooldowns. Those exchanges can just be mathematically hard to quantify how powerful it is for that defending team who just always plays keep away. But he's not so good on attack, and he's not so good in the wrong hands. I do put him above Brigitte despite her giga nerf that everybody's so worried about, because I think he's more self-survivable because Brig needs a little bit of coordination playing with her team on the front line. Lifeweaver, I feel, is easier to play because he plays from range, and you can only care about your positioning if you want, as opposed to Brig, who kind of has to get closer to her team. Remember, Brig's repair pack got nerfed. It's a really silly change in some of this rework, I feel, because for the average player, I actually think she might have got harder to play despite having a big play opportunity, being able to stun and rally. I've lost track of how many content creators have said the words Brig will not die with 100 extra armor, and then every time I play against her, she dies immediately. I think the rally rework has been incredibly overhyped, considering how much stronger a character like Zen is. Think about what type of game are we even playing right now? Can you pick 3 supports to keep Brig alive in a GOATS comp? No, that's not even an option anymore. Zen playing from range, casting his abilities from safety, actually counters Brig and anything she would want to do, especially since they reduced the move speed on rally, but it takes her even longer to close the distance. You cast a Discord on her or her team, you just poke it out. It feels super easy to me. Now, I'll admit, at higher tiers of play, playing around Brig in the setups and playing in better position, the crowd control is incredibly powerful from Brig because knocking a dive tank off course does an incredible amount. So if you're trying to secure your backline with Brig and Ana, that's going to be some of the better counters against Ball, Doomfist, etc. But what's even more than that, I feel like Lifeweaver just does that job better. He has a shield as well. His pedal platform is really hard to interact with. Not quite the same thing as a personal barrier, but it effectively is. And he's got Life Grip, which just has incredible ult fight interactions. While yeah, Brig in the ult fight can go stun in High Noon or a Coalescence or whatever, I feel like putting yourself at risk as a support character is so much harder and a waste of time compared to just running away from the ults that are coming at you. Needing to be aggressive with your ultimate as a support, I think, is just asking for danger. I've played a lot of ranked as well without Lifeweaver, and I just have seen Brig's need to swap over and over and over again when I pick the better heroes in the game. And I think that just gets worse with Lifeweaver as he does her job better. Coalescence did get a buff, so she's in the B tier. Moira just hanging around here for her East to play. If you can't play Kiriko, Moira can do some silly things. She can go even deeper in your backline because she's going to get Fade in Coalescence, which means she can position in even dumber ways than before. I think that's going to succeed a bit more before Lifeweaver's in ranked. She's a bit obnoxious for some of the top tier support picks to deal with when you're getting cold in the backline. But once you have Lifeweaver to pull you up to high ground, I don't know if Moira has a good target and is just sort of left high and dry without a lot of value. She probably goes down once Lifeweaver's added, to be honest, but she's so easy to play that there's some baseline stats that you can at least get out in the fight with Moira. If targets are running away a lot from you, try to focus on healing more than damage because the positioning battle means Moira might struggle to get on top of the targets that she normally could just run over. Keep in mind, her heal did get a buff this patch, so that helps a lot. Adapt your playstyle to heal a bit more. The lingering effect on heal went up from 2 seconds to 3, so don't overly focus on DPSing at all. They buffed her to be more of a healer. Down in the C tier is Lucio, who is just a victim of ranked. If you have a duo partner or you feel like you can trust your teammates who are playing characters like Reinhardt, Reaper, Bastion, if they use their engagements or cooldowns correctly, like if Bastion uses his sentry form well, like when the fight's committed, as opposed to the biggest Bastion mistake I see all the time where they use it to snipe, even though it's worse at long range than the recon form, then you can speed boost him in to really devastate a team fight. Lucio is kind of like getting left in the dust. Like at the launch of the game, he was the best support easily because he could get in out of the fight and it was more simple, just FPS mechanics. Now the support class is just filled with all sorts of buttons to press that are really powerful, and it's going to be tough for Lucio to compete with that unless you have a bit of coordination. He still has a few maps where he's pretty dominant, like Li Zhang, speeding your Symmetra to point, booping characters off the map on Night Market and Gardens. Oddly, his best pairing is Kiriko, and a lot of players in Ranked don't know how to play with that support line. Like, it's super aggressive, more about the offense and repositioning, and if you have a really flanky team and can play that style, then it is powerful, but I think it's not the natural team comp that most players know how to play. The other option would be Moira as well in sort of a brawly rushdown play. At the higher tiers, it would be with Bap, but in any case, consider him based upon the game sense and team comp understanding that it looks like your team has or doesn't have. And it's often the case that you need to do more on your own. Now onto the tank category. If I warned you on my support tier list to not undervalue their placement, I want to go the opposite for tanks. Don't overvalue their tier listing here. It's less of a representation of their overall power against the rest of the game, but instead based on the relative power within their category. The reason I say that is all the tanks are counterable. It used to be that it was incredibly easy for the enemy tank to counterpick you in previous seasons. Now, because there's so many more relevant DPS and supports in the game, it feels like the entire roster can counter your pick. So I leave Ramatra in S tier, not because you play him all the time or he's the top meta comp necessarily, but he has the most positive matchups against most things, but he himself definitely can be countered. So don't think you're just going to get away with picking him. The reasons why I would say you wouldn't want to play Ramatra is if you need to take space or there's too much spam coming at you, in which case you either want to play the tanks that punish spam onto tanks or mobile tanks that are just going to dodge it altogether. Ram is the go-to character though for just brawling in the front. Against too much damage, he can block in his Nemesis form, and against Reinhardt or shield tanks, he can pummel, cleaving through their shields. While I feel it's difficult for him to make a carry impact at the start of the fight, he's sort of just farming for his ult and managing his health. He really cleans up the end of the fight. Getting Nemesis form when the fight's like a 3v3 or a 2v2 is like team fight winning. And not to mention, once he gets his ultimate, another kick up of armor, more pummel, he closes the fight really well. But he's a bit tricky against dive, and the enemy can commit tank busting to take him down. Onto the A tier now. Despite Rein getting nerfed, armor health pool has been exchanged for a bit of normal life. He's still one of the easiest tanks to play around for most players. Still has that pin cooldown reduction from a while back and the fire strike buff. And while I'm skeptical that you would play Lifeweaver with him at the highest tiers of play, for most players, I think a good Lifeweaver is going to save Reinhardt when he's out of position, which that's one of the major cruxes of Reinhardt falling down a bit if you don't anchor appropriately or read the team fight right. Well, now there's a support that can stabilize that and remove his biggest weakness, getting to high ground. So I determine him to be quite playable. When there's too much spam or sniper, Sigma's still the go-to character. He lost his single combo, but I feel like you're not one-shot comboing most of the time. Like, that's such a small percentage of Sigma's play and power. That change was kind of niche for me. The rest of his kit is just so incredibly stable. And if anything, the longer stun duration helps him even more against dive tanks or shieldless tanks, as his team will be able to follow up on them even more. So in some matchups, that rework's actually a buff, because I think he's destroying squishies kind of regardless if he one-shots them or not. His damage is just incredible with just his hyper spheres alone. He didn't like need the combo to function like Roadhog did. Wrecking Ball's always a question mark for me at the average level of play because he's so technical to play, but I think you're going to feel that you just clown on those trying to pick Lifeweaver for free, and as long as the enemy doesn't have enough tank bust or coordination, Wrecking Ball will do some crazy things. The biggest benefit is his self-regen on his shield's health. That buff was massive, but also just having adaptive shield gives him the necessary tanking, and that's kind of the hallmark of a good tank right now. You got to have a high health pool to survive, and the ones that feel squishier just get countered by too many viable things in the DPS category. I'm putting Zarya back up in A tier because I'm starting to find that I think she's got a lot of positive matchups in this meta. While you don't want to pick her against Reinhardt necessarily, remember she's like the one MOBA carry style, I farm the enemy team and keep myself alive 5 style tanks in the game. And while that was a bit underwhelming in previous seasons, I think with Lifeweaver being able to grip her after she burns her cooldowns, or even when the team fight's starting to go south, if she can survive with her charge, she's just a lot better of a character and an option overall. So keep that in mind. Zari's that raid boss style character that as long as she maintains her energy, she is a threat to take over the game, as long as there isn't shields in her way. And if you watched our Lifeweaver guides, the ideal pairing for him is characters who want to burn their cooldowns aggressively and then get high stats and need an escape. Well, Zarya fits that perfectly, and she'll benefit from the pedal platform getting her up to high ground as well. So a little bit of coordination with that's going to go a long way and making her a lot more playable in the map pool. In the B tier, I'm a little bit nervous about a lot of these tanks. I think they're just too easily counter-pickable. In earlier versions, Orisa's ult felt like it was amazing. Now there's a lot of escapes and ways to interact with it. Lifeweaver can pull the target away or even pedal platform you up as you're channeling the ability. Yes, it goes through shields, but Somber EMP can disable it. It's kind of tough to not have a good ult as a tank character. Or it is good. It's a good ult, but it's easy to interact with, I feel. So there's a chance that it's not good. Winston, I think, is a bit of an easier to play wrecking ball and has some good teamwork gameplay, but his stats can often feel a little low. Requires expertise for sure, and I'll say that about this entire category. The more expertise you have with these tanks in their good matchups, the better time you're going to have. I'm always a bit higher on Queen, I think because I understand the pick, and it's one of my better tank heroes, but a bit too hard to execute. Diva's usually a top pick to counter Winston when he's good, but I don't think he's good enough. You can pick her against Ball, most definitely, but a lot of the other tanks above her kind of win the matchup. Proceed with caution on that one. Again, requires expertise. And down in the C tier, I'm going to put Doomfist and Roadhog. Granted, I have seen some Doomfists hard take over games, and Roadhog for that matter. If you understand these picks, they definitely can perform higher. I just think they're hard to learn and situational, and you got to know the perfect scenarios and maps for them. With experience, I think you could still pick Hog on Well, and Doomfist seems to be really good on Paraiso. These maps that have like a lot of places for him to launch from, but also it's hard to see him coming. You would think these two might be a bit better with Ana's sleep cooldown going down, but that never was necessarily the problem for them, I think. It's more so the teamwork interactions just kind of lacking. They're either killing your whole team or providing not much. I do suggest playing Kiriko with both of them, because without Suzu, I think they don't have the reliability that other tanks might, and the positions they like to play are often out of line of sight or diving in deep or going on a flank as Roadhog. And as we mentioned, the support category, I don't necessarily think she just easily wins the game either. There's easier ways to play than these tanks. Now onto the damage category. A tier, I forgot to name the previous ones, but for damage I will. This is the plays Overwatch tier. All these picks in the A tier contribute to the top meta team comps in one way or the other. So Cassidy, Bastion, Mei Ashe either have the tank bust power in the pressure neutral fight or have the ultimates to interact in the ult fight. Really stable characters, work well with a lot of the top picks in the game. Ashe and Widowmaker make the list for when you have to go at the backline and the tank battle's being lost because let's say they have a Zen that's winning it for free. And when that's the case, you as the damage player need to figure out a way to influence the tank battle by going at the squishies instead. Tracer still remains the best at that. I also think smart Sombra play can get it done. Keep in mind that the entire map pool is open, so while that means there isn't necessarily like a Widowmaker bias in the map pool with a lot of sniper maps, there's still like enough that she changes the game fundamentally, and it can be difficult for your one tank to block all the lines of sight, and she will get picks. But when she's not present to outrange everything in the game, Cass and Ashe will do tons of output with both their hit scan damage and cooldowns, and Bastion's like the easiest, freest value DPS in the game, I feel. Stick them in the middle of your team comp, aim towards the enemy team, hopefully receive a bit of support. Between the natural armor health he has and how scary his damage output is when in his turret form, most things in the game just have to get out of the way. Because with a bit of healing, he remains in his armor health. It's a character like this that if you don't have a Zen on your team, like good luck bursting him down when he's with his team. He really eats up a lot of the mistakes that you're going to see in ranked as long as you play around your team. Burning down the Tree of Life, Bob, Petals, tanks, everything. Now into the B tier, I'll say these characters have some strong matchups or work well with teamwork. Sojourn's all the way at the bottom, requiring you to be a specialist, I feel, to get the carry impact she once did. If you are, great, but a lot of the other picks in the DPS category are pretty easy. Hanzo has quite a lot of strong matchups against the top tier picks. He himself is counterable by other things, but he outranges a lot of the strong A tier DPS. His ultimate's just a little harder to use, and he's not as reliable overall. Hanzo logs giveth and Hanzo logs taketh away. Instead, a bit more reliable is Torb, who's got a lot of natural armor health, and the turret is nuts. Not so nuts against like Ramatra, who shoots back at range, but can either really work to poke down a Reinhardt or fortify your backline against the dive tanks. Torb's incredibly reliable, and Molten Core is a very usable ultimate, has a lot of strong interactions to help your team. Symmetra's got some dominant maps still. Higher tier players will probably coordinate her with Lifeweaver to get to some ridiculous pathing. I don't suggest you do that in ranked, but it'll come out, I'm sure, as teams really develop interesting ways to path through the map as a team. I mainly keep her in B tier because she's really good on a few control maps, especially. We spoke about Reaper in the Lifeweaver Advanced Guide. One of the better combos with him, I feel. Keep in mind, his interaction against Cassidy goes up now that Cass's health is lower, and even Magnade, which you should Wraith form to dodge anyway, but even if it does hit you, does less damage. Reaper's a good counter pick against him on more brawly maps. The flying characters have a place on the maps that suit them, where they can set up on really high ground, go on big flanks. I almost put my boy Junkrat a bit lower this time around. I suggest you be a specialist to play him. Other picks are definitely easier, and Soldier is getting outpaced by some of the value of the other hit scans, I feel. He's just a worse version of Bastion for me. He can flank more, but there's better picks at that. And as the games progress, there's a lot more tanking, a lot more health, a lot more healing, so his damage often isn't enough, but his ult can still be very good when set up. Down here in the C tier is Genji. Put him in the everything counters him tier. Because, like, in theory, he's supposed to be good against hit scans, and he can reflect Bastion's sentry form, which may be a good counter pick for that, for your team to survive against that when they're out of position. You can save them. But honestly, there's like a lot of deployables and escapes and healing and easy to land damage. Good luck playing Genji this season. I think it's just too much effort for what he can do. If you have the right matchup and a good Ana, Nanoblade can be good. I just think he's too difficult for what you get out of him. That's everything for the Season 4 tier list, guys. Be sure to check out today's video sponsor, NVIDIA, linked in the description. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave it with a like, and don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon to actually get notified when our videos come out. That's been it for me. I've been Frito for your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.